You know, the statistics show that 50% of marriages now end up in divorce, unfortunately. And many accountants work with clients for 10, 20, 30 years and end up working with a couple. And that couple sometimes divorce. And when the couple divorces, you end up with two clients as a result of that. And that creates some issues in the divorce area that are unique to our profession and requires a person who has unique skills, I think, to work with that situation. Divorce is a legal process. It's one where attorneys get involved on either side of the transaction. Usually they're advocates for their clients. They're fighting to try to win their case in a litigation type style environment. As accountants, our role is really to assist those attorneys, to help them to pull together the financial information that they need to be able to make the decisions that are important to make the divorce go as equitably as possible. There's a process called equitable distribution. Equitable distribution is a process whereby the assets of the couple are all put on a balance sheet of sorts. And this is what we're helpful in doing, is to create a balance sheet of all the assets that they own, all the liabilities that they owe on those assets perhaps, and then to try to determine what the values of all those assets are, because those assets can be anything from cash to securities, mutual funds, investments in real estate. It could be a family business, and a family business is not an easy thing to value. I mean, what's a business worth? And so the purpose of doing all of that is to determine the total value of all those assets that the individuals and that the couple own jointly, and to try to total all that up and look at the debt involved with it, and then distribute that to the couples so that they each come away in an equitable fashion. One of the most unique assets that we have sometimes in a divorce situation is a business. If the family has a business, it's one in which maybe one spouse works in that business, the other spouse works in the business, maybe they both work in the business. And unfortunately in divorce, a lot of times either one spouse has to take that business or the other spouse takes it. And so you have to be equitable in terms of what the value of that business is, and it's very difficult to determine what that value is. And so an expert is brought in, like myself, to evaluate that asset and try to determine what that's worth, so that we can then split that asset up in some fashion. That asset may go to one spouse or the other spouse. You know, the business may go to the husband, or it might go to the wife. And then other assets will have to be used that couple owns to make that equitable, so that they all come out with an equitable distribution. Divorce takes place in a court of law, and accountants get involved with the lawyers on either side of that litigation. And because of that, you have to have special skills in knowledge and expertise, education, and experience, especially to be able to deal in that situation, because it's not something that every accountant is accustomed to working with. I mean, you have to know how that court of law system works, how that litigation is going to evolve, and how to assist the attorney in the proper fashion to make that make sense for them, and to help them and assist them in the most efficient way. And that's why sometimes, and usually most of the time, we find that when a couple divorces, a specialist is brought in, a specialist accountant. It may not be the accountant that they normally work with, because oftentimes that person has a conflict of interest anyway, because they've in the past have represented both of those individuals, and now that they're in litigation against each other, you have to bring somebody else in who's neutral or independent to work in that situation, and that's what I do a lot of.